You're listening to Data Center Therapy. Please take a number, and an engineer will be right with you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Data Center Therapy. I am your host, Matt Yeti, and joining me is...
Matt Gasolino.
Matt, you're sounding a little better than last time. I see that you're a little closer to the microphone this time.
If I get right up there and smell it, it's great.
We just need smell-o-vision on podcasts, and we'll really complete the sensory experience.
And our subscribers go down to 0.
Right. This is where... Why did people tune out at 38 seconds in your podcast?
To the IT guy podcast. Yeah, right?
Well, today's episode is going to be a little different. We're going to kind of move off a specific area of the industry and geek out a little bit on our own home labs. So Matt and I both are, not only are we professional IT industry participants, but we also like to geek out at home. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what we have, what we use our labs for, what our build is based on, and just kind of go there and see if anybody wants to participate here in the conversation. If you want to shoot us an email or go to the website, let us know what you have. So maybe give us some ideas, and we can give you some ideas on this episode. So let's kick it off. Matt, what do you have in your home lab? Or what does it look like?
What does it look like?
You're on the clock, too, because I know how you can go. So I'm going to cut you at some point.
Let's see. So the network guy in me said, let's actually get some real layer 3 switching. So eBay for some Cisco layer 3 switches. I really like having those in place because I can collect all my routes and I can build a tunnel to AWS and I can redistribute some stuff over BGP and I can and, right? So that's kind of the core of everything. From there, I just really got excited because I finally pulled the trigger and upgraded my compute. And I went from a home-built super micro box and a 2U rack mount chassis to some actual real rack mount servers with some real CPU and some real memory in them. They are older, but I've got 4 nodes now and enough memory in my environment that I can actually vMotion stuff around and put some hosts into maintenance mode. So that's kind of the core. I get some storage too. I got some decent storage under there. Let's see. What do I do with it? Primarily, I use it to learn. So I've got ESX running, so I can install all of the VMware stuff, the alphabet soup of VMware stuff. And then the service that I get people complaining about when I don't fix it right away is the infamous Plex. So I run that out of there. That's kind of the piece that keeps me engaged with it. Otherwise, if I didn't, something would break and it's not that big of a deal. I'm not going to deal with it, and eventually you got to just start over or something, right? How about
Plex
you?
is what you were trying to sell me Docker's containers based on, or one real big use case of your fanaticism for Docker containers.
My
is
fanboyism?
Plex.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. That's the word.
Looking for the right insult.
I don't have like a Kubernetes cluster set up. I don't have any of that. I'm just running some Ubuntu hosts. I just got everything upgraded to 18.04. So Ubuntu hosts running Docker on them, and there's just a handful of them, and I manually distribute stuff. Nothing's watching my services, but yeah, that's how I try to actually run stuff. And then I have to have Windows, but I really don't want it.
Sure.
Just because it's so far away,
Mm-hmm. Well, before I get into my lab build out, I want to kind of continue down that really brief Plex side path.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were saying you just got done upgrading your server level, where it really is an upgrade, right? It's just build a new and move your stuff over, right? And
Yeah.
for Docker, that's very easy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I just ran into the same thing for my Plex server, where I'm a CentOS distro user.
Yeah.
Typically, when I can, a lot of the stuff I want to do now, I am being pushed towards Ubuntu, right? It seems like a lot of stuff is going down that path. I don't prefer that. I came from Red Hat,
Mhm.
and then Fedora, and it's kind of now it's Red Hat Enterprise binary compatible. CentOS is my favorite, and particularly I prefer CentOS 6, 6.9 I think they're at now, or 6.10, even though that's going end of life sometime soon here because CentOS 7 has been out for quite a time now. But they switched to System D in CentOS 7, and I do not like E. Just there's a certain bit of I've spent all these years learning if config and like, all these commands that know service
network config,
service
yes.
like service Plex Media Server restart.
Mhm.
Now it's systemctl. Just these things that I'm used to have changed, and it's
Mhm.
obnoxious.
Mhm.
That is no doubt is my number one thing. And it's not like I learn it and it changes every 1 year. So why are you getting so hung up? It's the stuff that's been in place for decades, and now they're like, well, nope, we're gonna do it a different way.
Yeah.
But besides that, so Plex, what I've always done is I don't like to build from source unless I have to. Let's be honest. Package
Okay.
managers are kind of cool, right?
Yep.
RPM files in the world, apt-get
Apt-get
in
install. Yeah.
Ubuntu, but Yum,
Mhm.
the package manager in CentOS. So I like leveraging that, or if failing that, RPMs, download them straight, run RPM-UVH, upgrade it, boom.
Mhm. Mhm.
I had a script set to basically keep my Plex server up automatically, check every night, do a update,
Mhm.
whatever, restart the service. And I noticed my Plex server was telling me there's a new version out. Oh, great. Okay. It had a
Yep.
couple things that I wanted. So I go, why is my script not getting me this? And I'm running Yum, and it's saying, no, there's no packages available for upgrade. I'm like, yes, there are. I'm pointed to Plex's repository. I'm not even using a third party. Well, they switched it at, basically right at this version. They've deprecated CentOS 6, and now CentOS 7
Mhm.
is what's necessary. I'm like, I got to uplift my entire Plex server now to a brand new OS build. A little bit of a pain, and yet another now VM that I've got running that is running on not a flavor of Linux that I care to run, or at least CentOS 7. So, I mean, Docker would have helped me with that, right? I mean, it wasn't a huge thing. I backed up the database file,
Mhm.
dropped it back on the new server, and it was kind of it. It was very quick actually,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing quicker had I well. Let me ask you this: the Docker image
Yeah.
that contains the Plex Media Server database.
Yes.
Can you pull that version back down?
Yeah.
Like, can you take a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
deployed?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. There's so I'm doing like all of my Docker stuff probably the wrong way. Um, I have a text file. I keep it in Git, and that text file has the Docker compose, not Docker compose, Docker create, and then the flags, the dash D, the dash V for volume maps, and all the port mapping and all that fun stuff. It's got all of that built into it. So if I need to destroy something, I go Docker stop, Docker RM for delete it, and then I can push that image, copy paste that same little chunk of data somewhere else.
so the Plex Media Server database is living in that map drive, that shared persistent data drive.
Yes. So at the end of that, I tell it which image I want, and it's got the image name. Uh, um, it's I think username slash the project that the project you're actually asking to pull down, and then colon version number. So I've got colon latest. So each time I start it, it says, is this the latest image, and pulls it down or doesn't, right?
Gotcha.
So yes, to get to your point, I do have the folder that slash var lib whatever Plex Media Server, and then all of the stuff for the app is in there. That is mapped to an NFS mount that I mount
Okay.
inside of the host. So
Sure.
to give you an example, one of the things that I've been dealing with, I took the opportunity to replace my hosts. So I knew ESX install, rebuilt everything, did all my networking, flattened all of that, got all of that lined out, and then did a OS version upgrade. So I went from 16 is what I had been running on, 16 dot whatever.
04 probably,
Yeah,
right?
for the last couple of years for all my Ubuntu images. So I uplifted them to 1804. One of the things that I thought was really cool is if you give that image internet like DHCP address, when you boot it, you can point it at a GitHub repository and it'll pull down your public key. automatically, which is
That
super
is cool.
neat because then now my system's up and running. It's already got my public key on it, and I can just SSH into it, and I can have this gross, huge, long password, and I don't have to worry
That
about
is
that
nice,
because it automatically
especially if
just
you're
slips it in.
reusing
Yeah,
IP addresses.
yeah.
Right, and then it says, hey, the key is mismatched. So now you got to go into your known host file, drop that entry out, reestablish. Yeah, that's very nice. The
which
public key is really nice.
which on the Mac, SSH-keygen space
Yes.
minus capital R and then whatever it's complaining about, and it just pulls that one line out.
Have you done the SSH-copy-ID?
No, I haven't.
Because
Is
what
it?
that does is it basically takes your your IDRSA, basically your public key,
Uh-huh.
and then you give it credentials to the host, and it will leverage SSH and then copy your key to the authorized keys on the target server.
System. Oh, that's neat.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I haven't had to
There
do
you
that.
go.
We can come back and talk about how to secure Linux boxes because I'm still struggling with that a little bit. There isn't that. Here's my Microsoft history. There isn't that easy button of you're an admin, you're a domain admin, you're all this. It's like
Right.
you're sudo, you're root, you are, or you're not.
And there's also the SE Linux. Are you familiar with that?
No.
From the Red Hat CentOS side, it's a security framework, but it's basically a WatchGuard. And what you can do is you can either say it's one of those things that is so tough to really tune, where it's dangerous because just turn it off is what it comes down to. I'll worry about security my traditional ways. You can use IP tables, you can use APF, you could use a Linux firewall, but this basically will. I've had Apache. I'm trying to run a website, load a web page, and something's not working. It's throwing an error 500 for some reason because on the back end, SE Linux is squashing the HTTPD process for some reason because it touched a file somewhere that I didn't specifically tell the system this process is going to write to this directory.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, you know what? I just don't have time for this. I don't have any personal identifiable information. It's not worth my time. So
yeah.
I know a little bit about SE Linux to know it is crazy aggressive. So I just end up disabling it.
There's kind of that whitelist, blacklist kind of approach to how do you deal with security, right? Mm-hmm. It's a struggle. Even just talking firewall rules, that's that same kind of approach. What I was getting at with my Ubuntu image version was the long way around of I was running into an issue where my Docker service wasn't starting. So I stood it up, I stood Plex up, everything's fine and running. And I go away for a couple hours, and I come back, and it's not. And what the hell's wrong? This was fine 2 hours ago. The service wasn't running. I had to manually go and reinstall it through apt-get and not use the bundled version because it wasn't working correctly. So over the course of the last couple of weeks, while I'm beating on that, trying to make it work like I wanted it to, without having to actually go and reinstall Docker, I stop Plex over here on my system that's running, start Plex over here, test it, poke it, no, it's still broken, I'm going to bed, stop Plex over here, start it back up on the one that's working, right? So
working, then it crashes, yeah.
No, the old one that's working on 1604.
Oh, okay.
It's running there, I go Docker stop, and then go over to my new system, and I go Docker run, and it starts running and working and doing its thing, and then my session times out, SSH closes, whatever. SSH closing was really what was triggering it, and it would stop.
Oh, you were running within the base console.
Yeah,
you ever use Screen?
Yes, I have. I don't like it because it's.
Weird, I don't either because it obfuscates what's actually going on, and yeah.
So it was that kind of a thing. But it really was. This is running over here, and I stop it, and now it's running over here, and I stop it, and now it's running back over here. Right. So
that's your argument for cloud services or not even necessarily cloud. I know cloud has basically hijacked all of the idea of your stuff running in a different data center.
Right. Right. So to that same point, to coattail onto that a little bit, if we're talking to someone about how do I get my service from here to Amazon, and I'm looking at a Windows box, I've got to back it up and convert it and do all that BS.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm running a container and I have a repository I can pull that from, I can just say launch over here and it launches.
Yep.
Then all I have to do is get my data.
And again, to revisit our older conversations, I mean, that's That's all well and good as long as the application has been refactored to run in a containerized format.
Did I share with you the thing I heard at VM? What did I go to? Empower just a couple
Hmm,
weeks ago.
I don't know.
So it was like the CEO or CTO or one of the guys at that top 3 levels down thing. Um, he was up there. He was talking about containers, and the comment he made was, "You've got this company. They refactored their app. There's this giant app, and they refactored it
In-house kind of thing.
in-house, and now we're all containers and containerized, and everything's containered and blah." And he's like, "Okay, so what happens when you upgrade this component?" "Well, everything breaks, and we have to revisit the entire thing." And that's the wrong way to do
It's
it.
one of those things where it's like, don't touch it. It's working.
Yeah,
But don't you
yeah,
dare touch it.
yeah. Whereas, like, if you embrace it, and of course, I'm not a scripting guy, so I don't actually do this. But if you embrace it, then this app should be able to rev on its own, even though you're using it over here in this other thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it does break and it does do something, now you can point the finger to say, this is what was working. It was working on version 15, and you upgraded it to 16, and now it's broke. So let's fix that, right?
Yep.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, in my garage actually is one half of my lab. You and I, again, we have our little shared location where we store some of our kit for demoing. But I've got a little super micro. I think it's like a D chassis they call it, or whatever. It's like a short little mini tower. Size of a couple shoe boxes stacked on top of each other, and it's got like an 8-core Intel chip in it. I've got 128 gigs of RAM stuffed in it, and then a 2 terabyte SSD drive.
That's nice.
So that runs all my home stuff. I mean, I have quite a bit running in there. Um, some of my favorite things that I'm running Homebridge. If anybody's into home, I'm way into home automation. If anybody is into home automation, and you're in the Apple ecosystem, HomeKit is a thing, right? The Home app. It's Kazo's rolling his eyes at me because he just
Apple.
can't wait to give every bit of his personal data to Google. He just loves it. Anything. He's sending them unsolicited blood samples. They don't even want it, but
Not so
there's no
much
human there
anymore.
to process it to send it back. So they just take it, file it away.
Not so much
Anyway,
anymore, but yeah.
For those who care about their privacy
Mm-hmm.
and not relying on cloud services, HomeKit's actually really cool. And I'm not selling HomeKit here because what I'm talking about is HomeBridge, which is, hey, I want this smart device like I have a Philips Hue system, right? In the first generation, Apple was forcing all these manufacturers to go through a hardware certification process and put an extra chip in all of their home automation devices to authenticate against, in the name of security, but it was this hardware thing. So it was expensive for the companies and it just took a long time. A lot of companies promised HomeKit support only to say, no, we're not doing it. They've since changed that, but the end of that was the first generation Philips Hue hub is not HomeKit compatible. But for $49.99, you can buy our new hub for the same exact thing. And I said, oh no, I'm not doing that. So HomeBridge takes any smart device, any device really that has an API, has an online service, has a login, whatever, has an IP address, and anybody can write a plugin for it. And a lot of plugins have already been written for a lot of the mainstream devices that basically say, hey, smart device, I'm going to talk to you however you want to be talked to, API, website, whatever. And then I'm going to turn around and say, hey, HomeKit. He runs basically a daemon that advertises the HomeKit protocol. It says, hey, HomeKit, here's a Philips Hue bulb, all happy and certified and what you think you need to see. And so I've got 2 garage doors running the Chamberlain, they're LiftMasters, right? So they have the Wi-Fi, the MyQ, they call it. Heck, if I'm going to buy a $80 hub to tie that into my system, right? No. HomeBridge, hello.
On those garage doors, is it built in? Is the automation piece built into the lifter?
So 2 things. They're a Wi-Fi, so they join my network.
Okay.
Right? And then I can use the app to sign into their service. Somebody wrote a plugin, and the app itself can do automation stuff, yes, but I don't want to use a specific app unless I absolutely need to, right? Because that's the point of centralizing all your automation stuff. So basically, I bring those into my HomeKit setup via HomeBridge, because HomeBridge has a LiftMaster plugin that says, what's your MyQ username and password, boom. And now I've got the doors in my Apple Home, And then any like my automation, I use geofencing. If my wife and I are away from the house, but the garage doors are open, boom, it closes the garage doors. Things like that.
Okay.
I have a smart lock that when I
Right.
leave my geofence, boom, it locks.
I was asking because the garage door opener we have here is not integrated. So it's just a relay that's hooked up to it. So
Yep, I
the
did that with a Pi,
yeah, so the
my old
struggle
one.
I've been having is I haven't gotten into home automation enough to put the time in. So like scripting the simple push the button and close the circuit so that it lifts
Yep,
and then push the button again so it opens the circuit.
yep.
That simple little timer thing just
You know what?
screw it.
I think as long as if we'll run it by marketing, huh?
Yeah.
I want to know. I want an episode based strictly on home automation because home labs are fun, man. But right now I'm totally geeking out on home automation. So I don't know about you, but are we okay? I got the shrug from marketing. I think we're good. I think we're good. So we will follow up with an episode sometime soon here, hopefully about home because I could really. I see we're already at like 20 minutes. I really could go off on this and really get in. So Kazo, stay tuned. I will school you for once.
Yeah, let's do that. So I mean, if you want a fun project and a little learn session, we've got some bulbs, we got some switches, we got what's the I want to say it's let me look at it. We got a bunch of stuff. I just got us a, a deadbolt for the door. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
I mean, there's stuff here. We got stuff, but no one does anything. A smart thing hub. That's the one that keeps bitching at me
yeah,
when it disconnects.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd do something. I'd learn from you.
I'd love to talk about it because I most of my home is. What's also important, and I don't want to get too much further into it. What's important for me is that you can do things without voice. I
Yeah.
don't like talking to Siri. I don't. I don't like being misunderstood. And you guys, I mean, anybody who's married knows the misunderstandings are there by default half the time, right?
Yeah. What?
I don't
Huh?
need
What?
I don't need yet another lady who doesn't seem to get me. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I don't like "Hey Siri," blah 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 blah, and she better not. Of course, she'll probably hear that me saying that. But
You don't
anything that
like
I
me
can do,
anymore.
through the voice, I want to be able to do with a button. So all
Mhm.
my smart switches on the wall, they're all switches. They're rocker
Mhm.
switches. So if I just want to turn the light off, boom, I can turn the light off.
Mhm.
So I like that.
Yeah.
Um, Other stuff I do in my lab, of course, aforementioned Plex, of course, like you mentioned.
Mhm.
I have a virtual rubric. I have a virtual cohesity, so I can play around with. Yeah, maybe I'll get to it. Yeah, no, it's no. I absolutely have the appliances for both of those, Matt. So if you want those, I can get those to you. I do home video surveillance. I have security cameras, so I have a virtual NVR they call them, and basically like a DVR, network DVR. Um, I for the last 17 years I've had a fan site for Dave Matthews Band. I know, kind of nerdy, but when
Mhm.
I was in college, I was really very much into Dave Matthews Band and started a fan site. So some of my systems run associated with the site. One thing that I do, and you might be interested in this, Matt, is we were talking earlier about our data center with security alerts and
Mhm.
intrusion attempts that we've been dealing with. Well, Ants is my website is quite a target for security, vulnerability intrusion attempts. What I've been dealing with lately is SQL injection attacks. Now
SQL
I've
injection.
I've scrubbed the site to protect against SQL injection attacks, but there's hundreds of
Mhm.
PHP pages on the site, so I mean, there's a lot of attack vectors. So what I wanted to do was I didn't want some of them were successful where they were just doing selects, but they would bring down the database server with these real huge nested
Mhm.
queries, and that's how I knew something was going on. Then I pop in the logs. I say, okay, what is this? I'll tell you what I did. I can't afford Splunk. I can't afford VMware Log Insight. I don't have the license. This is a personal hobby of mine.
Mhm.
I rolled my own Elasticsearch based. They call it ELK,
Yeah.
right? And you're
Yeah.
laughing, but what is the Elasticsearch something and Kibana or something?
Mhm.
There's
And you
a
push all
number
your
of
logs up to that.
I do. I have that using FileBot, which is grabbing logs from the Apache server and Nginx,
Mm-hmm.
Nginx or whatever they call it, and
Is
then
that is are you using that for a load balancer? Do you like
I
it?
am not.
You
I
aren't?
am not. No,
You just
I've
do
done a
like
reverse.
a
I've done a
SSL
reverse
SSL
proxy.
encryption on it or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not. No, yeah. So, um, it puts it into the Elasticsearch, and I was like, then I was looking at things, right? And oh yeah, great. I mean, this was all nice. Now what do I do with this data, right?
Yeah.
So
Now
what I
what?
found
Right, regex
was this.
queries for the days.
What I found was this plugin. So I got my filter down to show me only the results that basically had key SQL words in the URL,
Mm-hmm.
union, select, things that aren't a part of my, I don't have any files named that, whatever. So then once I got that, I had the script that was basically searching for that on a nonstop basis. It sends me an email now if that happens, and it fires off a script. So how about this? If an IP address makes a URL a SQL injection attempt, that script finds it from the logs, grabs it, sends me an email, and then it hits the server and it does a null route on that IP address. Bye.
Have you looked at fail to ban?
Yes, I have, but
Okay.
failed to ban. Yeah, I suppose it does something very similar. I use it on another server for my email stuff.
Mm-hmm. I saw that
Uh,
showing up on a bunch of stuff in relation to security and how do I secure my box, and a lot of like
yep.
home lab, homebrew stuff for
That's it.
self-hosted is the one I'm looking at.
It would have
They
done exactly that for me. Yeah.
Yeah, they bring that up,
But
and
but what I also like to do, and the reason for the Elasticsearch is when I find one of those, I like to kind of look at what else is going on around that or historically.
mm-hmm.
And that's where, so failed to pan probably would have been, if I just wanted to strictly reject those kind of queries,
Mm-hmm.
perfect. If I wanted to then dig in and see what was going on, that's why I kind of went. I used to have a Graylog server, which kind of did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, of course, that broke down because I hadn't touched it in a few years, and I went to set it back up. I was like, how did I do this in the first place? Let me look at another
Why?
way of doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah, very, very convoluted, but powerful too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, boy, I feel like we could do a part two of this one of these days. On this,
Probably.
I mean, that went quick. Do you have? I have one. I've never seen that before. Do you have anything
I don't.
right now?
I don't.
I do. Google Cloud went down yesterday. I've never. Never mind. I have seen that before. I've seen it too often. So sorry. YouTube went down. Gmail went down. I'm sorry, Matt. The good news is
It was only the East Coast, so
right.
and it was camping, so who cares, right?
Right. Well, they know that. They know that you were uploading and checking into campsites and
mm-hmm.
and.
Geo
But no,
geocaching my breakfast.
I mean that was quite an outage.
That was a big one, yeah. That was a big one.
It seems like the East Coast and specifically the Virginia locations like AWS, that
Mm-hmm.
whenever AWS has problems, it seems to be that site. Have you
Well,
noticed that?
I want to say the one from Microsoft just a couple of weeks ago was down in Texas, in the Texas area, wasn't it?
I don't remember that one specifically, but I know Microsoft was having problems with their what was it? Their two-factor auth or something went down a few months ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Remember,
And
folks, it's somebody else's data center.
that also means it's someone else's problem.
It's not though, because if my site is running on it and it goes down, it's my problem, and yet there's nothing I can do about it. That's the problem. If I'm going to break it,
There
I
is
can fix
something
it.
you can do about it. You can choose to scale across Azure and AWS, right? You can
can.
decide to do that.
You can. You can. And if we're talking about medium-sized businesses
Probably doesn't make
or
sense.
smaller,
Yeah.
right. And quite honestly, while we have a number of large customers, we have many more smaller customers
Mm-hmm.
where I just can't propose that kind of solution just because of cost and scale of that. But yes, you're right. You can scale across multiple clouds. There always seems to be a point of failure that we don't discover until the failure happens. You build in the fail-safe next time, and then something else happens you weren't foreseeing. So
Yeah. There's for me there's a handful of things that I like having someone else manage. I feel like I'm paying for more than, because like for personally I use Google Suite and I run my personal domain mail through Gmail, so I can
Mhm.
I can leverage that. the thing I like about it is they have people sitting there watching a knock. They have people sitting there watching the screens, and when
Do
things
they have
break,
people sitting there?
they have to. There
I
has
don't
to
believe
be.
it,
There
but that's just
absolutely
my
is.
theory.
There absolutely is.
So
There's
how
a
come
really
whenever I
fun.
email Google for support, I never hear from anybody? We'll get back to you in
said
up to
they were
30 days.
watching services and stuff. That whole support, that's a whole different thing. My point there is there's people there that are breaking it. I'm taking that consumer role. When I was actually in operations and working for a customer, and I got an email from the help desk about is my Outlook is broken on this customer's thing. Is the Exchange server having problems? And it's the question of, is my phone ringing? No, my phone's not ringing, so that means it's your problem. So
Blame it on the network.
right, right, exactly. But we get to take that. Excuse me. We get to take that same approach, right? My email is broken along with everyone else's.
Sure.
They're going to fix that, and then my email will be resolved. And I don't
Sure,
have to worry about it because someone
get
else
it.
will fix it, right?
And if your email goes down, one, it's personal email, but two, you don't have the time to fix it necessarily either.
Exactly.
So you just kind of go through it. And I mean, Ivoxy, we're in Office 360. I call it Office 360, not 365. I'm perfect.
364 and a half.
But we are, I mean, we don't have the internal staff dedicated to our own internal IT operations. That would be silly.
Right.
So we just outsource it to hosted email, and we take the lumps with it, which is a bummer. I mean, it's kind of a sad
trade-off. Yeah.
It is. I wish it didn't have to be that way because, again, I come from ops as well, like you, and I can't think. I don't know how many nines I had when I ran Exchange, but it was better than cloud services for sure. I mean, I was running a few thousand mailboxes, not millions, but
yeah. I mean, I agree. You build all of the redundancy into there. You get redundant servers. You get everything you need, and you can. But there is that. If something's broken and I have to get it replaced, then I'm waiting on FedEx to get me a new part from the vendor, right? And there's that. I don't want to have to do that. I want someone else to deal with a whole bunch of that stuff. Some things, absolutely, I'm going to run in-house, internal, but there is no magic bullet. Everyone wants one, but there isn't one.
So it sounds like we have at least 2 episodes queued up based on this episode. This is the self-generating podcast here. We've got a Home Lab V2. I'm not even going to say like B because we might keep on going with multiple. And we've got home automation to talk about too down the road. That I'm really excited about. And I can walk you specifically through more of what I've been dealing with that. There's things like Home Assistant that I think a lot of people are gravitating towards, and I would urge caution on that just as a little bit of a pin on that. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, it's been a busy year so far. We're coming into the summer quarter, and I don't feel like it's letting up, which is good.
Suddenly it's June, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's been gangbusters right now.
Yeah. So if anybody has any input on their labs, what they're doing at home, if they are trying to get a setup going and they just want some advice or want to bounce some things off us, hit us up, podcast@ivoxy.com. We're always keeping an eye on that mailbox, and we can get back to you, whatever you have in mind. If you've got ideas, things you want us to talk about, shoot us an email as well. Visit us on the web at ivoxy.com to sign up for a free vSphere assessment. We have that. And then just hit Matt and I up through that email address if you got stuff you want to talk about. Be happy to chat about it and fill your ears with the lovely sound of Mr. Cozzolino's voice now that he's speaking into the microphone properly.
Just like this.
There we go. I don't even need to munge that in post. I think that's good as it is, Matt. Thank you.
That's how I roll.
Always good to chat with you, Matt. A lot of fun. I hope you have a good rest of your week.
You too. Take it easy. Don't work too hard.
Thank you. Yeah, don't worry about it. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Data Center Therapy. Have a good one.